Welcome to Telesis, the Architecture Student Journal of the Gibbs College of Architecture at the University of Oklahoma. So today we will be talking about the essence of traditional architecture. This is our current volume of Telesis, and we will be learning what is the essence of our role as a designers in today's world. Today, we will share some ideas of the essence of traditional architecture with our guest speaker, Laila Cordero. And I have the pleasure to meet Laila back in June when I had a small visit to Oaxaca, Mexico. Laila is an architect working at Arquitectos and Artesanos, a firm that is focused on working with traditional materials, communities, but above all, understanding the context, the place, and the site properly before developing any type of work. A little bit about Laila Cordero. Laila is a Mexican architect by the School of Architecture at UNAM University. She completed an academic exchange program in Buenos Aires in 2017. But in addition to that, she also got a scholarship to study a small program in the Polytechnical University of Madrid in 2019. Laila has an important dissertation thesis called Cosmic Ray Pavilion, Present, Past, and Future. And the topics discussed in her research address form-resistant structures, geometrical analysis of paraboloids, and the conservation of built heritage. Laila research, for example, has been presented in important places such as the symposium at the ETH Zurich in 2022, and Laila's work is focused on the conservation of traditional and vernacular heritage of Mexico, as well as in architectural design with regional materials. Partially, Laila continues her research on structural forms and provides educational support within the UNAM graduate program. So welcome, Laila, again to this online lecture. It's a pleasure to have you here, my friend, and please feel free to start your presentation. Introduce yourself again if you need it, whenever you're ready. The space is yours.
Thank you very much. So, good afternoon. I'm very happy to be the guest in this conference. I want to thank to the architect Felipe Flores for the invitation and to the University of Oklahoma. My name is Laila Cordero, and I am a Mexican architect, as you have already heard. Well, I have two main research lines. The first one is the structural analysis by geometrical form. And the second one is the preservation of the heritage of traditional systems. In many occasions, both topics became related in the same project. So the topic we're going to talk about today is the essence, mainly associated to the participation of the people living in rural communities. Through this lecture, I will share with you my personal experience that I have had, which has clearly been something that has left a footprint into my personal essence. It is fundamental to be conscious that every experience, good or bad, nourishes us and builds us as a human beings, even if sometimes it doesn't seem so. Today, as students, don't waste the opportunities available for you. A perfect example is your capstone project. Instead of looking at it as a tedious obligation or perform, see it as a challenge to research a topic of your own interest with a specialized tutor to support you all along the way. At the time when I was a university student, my final project, I made the most of all the tools that my university and my tutors gave me, without knowing that it will be a key that will be open many doors of discipline and constant efforts. I am able to dedicate myself to what I am passionate about. awareness of the preservation and conservation of traditional architectural heritage in Mexico, and in particular the historic earthen buildings, has declined over the last century. In this paper, I will analyze the main conservation challenge and opportunities facing these heritage assets at the national level in the cultural context, the circular economy, and the sustainability. If we look at this image, it's an old, maybe 50s village, Mexican village, but no longer the village of my country look like this. Most of them have already lost their traditional architecture and many things involved into the culture. In 2021, I had the opportunity to participate in a reconstruction project of dwellings and public spaces in Oaxaca, damaged by two of the world's earthquakes in the last 30 years. So the movements caused damage through the states and surrounding areas, mainly affecting traditional construction systems and in particular earthen constructions. The fractures that I am showing to you in these pictures can be easily repaired. It sounds strange, but it is true. We can easily repair all this type of damage because as scandalous as it sounds, all of these pictures, earth is a material that gives us many opportunities. And instead of when you use concrete or steel. So I would like to give a brief overview of earthen building systems before introducing to the work I am about to discuss. When it comes this type of architecture, there is a wide variety of methods with an infinity number of versions, but it will depend in the property of each type of soil. That is so important because to know which of them is the most appropriate to use it. But you basically can use any type of soil to perform it. But a lot of money will be lost in reformulating the natural characteristics of your own material. So, and most of all, the consciousness and the ecological point of view, the ecological impact about using earthen techniques will be lost. I mean, because it is true, every construction have an impact in the planet. You can't avoid it. But we know that the impact is minimum compared to the manufacture, the transportation, and the application, the production when you're using concrete or steel. Whilst traditional methods have responded over the years the needs of creating vital spaces driven by local materials and traditional techniques, each of them contains a particular essence of every region, either by their type of climate, relief, vegetation, and the sources available to them. I mean, each area has, even if it's the same system, have particularities that make the system unique. All the time, all the types of earthen systems have these, I don't know if it's particularity or property, but it's really peculiar and fabulous that the people own it, the system, the building, the construction, the process. Currently, their intervention is strongly encouraged with contemporary materials as concrete and steel, and this happens mainly for economic reasons. And since nowadays it's easier and faster, cheaper to reach out the industrialized products than the artisanal manufacturing materials and the gathering of the natural sources. In order to create an an architecture that is compatible with the reality, we cannot respond in a purist way of thinking, wanting everything to be specifically handcraft. I mean, we cannot expect to be successful in the reality wanted like it has done like 50 years ago. We have to be conscious of our actuality and took advantage of it. If we wisely merge the vernacular acknowledgement of the contemporary materials with the techniques of each area, we can make the most with the technology available today to offer. And we can offer an optimal solution to the users, because we must not forget that the architecture is about providing a service rather than a designer's whim. That is so important because most of the architecture nowadays are ideas, unrealistic ideas. Following the three main earth techniques we work with, we were rain earth, adobe, and bajarek. We can place the three in the next summary that I'm making to you. Is rain earth. The rain earth has higher amount of sand in its composition. That's the clue in the rain earth. This system is carried out by compact earth in layers. So I have here a little bit of the process. The first step is to make a formwork in the contour of the walls to contain it, and you are pouring the mix of earth, and in layers of 10 centimeters you compact each layer no more than 10 centimeters are like 4 inches.
Yep.
Because if you are using more than that, you will lose the strength of the structure. So you have to be careful with those details in earthen constructions. And at the last, you took out the formwork, and you have those results of this type of clean area of compact earthen walls. As you see it in the bottom part of this photograph, of this photo is a mix between rain earth and adobe. You have the bottom one, rain earth, and in the top of the part there are adobe and some brick parts. The second system is adobe. Well, Adobe has to be balanced in their proportions between clay and sand in its compositions. It's the most equivalent amount between both to use it, because the texture will be like clay, but not as rough as the rain earth, and not as like pottery when you are doing bajareke, you're in between. So this system is carried out by placing blocks in rows, like the brick system, the typical one, but there are some rules to don't go like less than 2 meters with a door. There are specific dimensions because these systems works like with wave, not like steel or concrete that have different movements. This one is like layer by layer, makes some wave, and it supports itself. And the third one is bajareke. So bajareke has a higher amount of clay in its composition. Not as higher as when you make pottery, like the Chinese techniques, not that. So, but it's this system is carried out by plastering the walls layer by layer until your required thickness is reached. I don't know if in the pictures you can appreciate the difference between each system. I mean the final results of each system. In rain earth, you have like a soft wall, like more homogeneous. And in adobe, you have like each brick in its place, and you can look at the joint between them. And in bajareque, you could look the texture in each wall, so it don't look as clean as Remer. Well, in addition, I want to say that the top layer in any area, in any area of the world, this is in addition for like everywhere you were, it's the top layer, the 4 inches of mostly the top is like the top soil. It's only used suitable for gardening, for plants. I mean, you can use it for construction because have like this composition that requires the plants. It's too organic. So if you put it on into your construction mixture, you will be lose it because will be growth plants and roots in your mixture, and you don't want that. You don't want roots in your mixture of earth. And when your soil excess in a higher way the clay in its composition is usually the most for pottery. It's really difficult to make the pottery composition to like construction. Use it for construction. You will lose a lot of money in sand, but a lot of money, like 4-7 times the amount of earth in sand, because it's really difficult. From here is when we can start with the central theme of the lecture, which is the essence. First and foremost, it's important to mention that in the most cases, the damage was not formally a structural risk, as I told you before, but rather a lack of maintenance or a weakening of the original structure as a result of erroneous additions with an incompatible elements of the structure. The authorities in charge of civil protection lack of knowledge to evaluate this type of properties and this type of architecture. So, and most of the time they proceed to demolish them even if could have been easily repaired. So that happened a lot after the earthquakes hit on the country. One of the saddest thing is that those houses were from their parents and of their grandparents before, like they have those houses has like 100 years, 200 years. It's a huge loss when they demolish without a previous research. So, well, despite the fact that my country has an architectural heritage of earth, it is not common to know how to preserve it. Nowadays, in the academy, there are no interested in encouraging the teaching of these subjects in the universities. In order to make all possible, we had the support of in order to make all this possible, I am talking about the intervention that I am about to introduce. We had the support of founding from a non-profit institution. Thus, the architectural studio, Arquitectos Artesanos, gathered a great team to be able to go to each community in response to the national emergency we were facing at the time. Okay, this is San Miguel Papaluta. The work that I am about to share with you is a reconstruction in the community of San Miguel Papaluta. After the earthquake, the authorities, the civil protection, ordered to complete a demolition of the townhouse. The townhouse was one of the oldest and the most important building in the community. It was full of history, and it was an hierarchical point for the population. This place was used for communal assemblies, for ceremonies and celebrations. The authorities showed terror in the community, arguing that it was a risk to re-enter this site, so they proceed to bring their machinery and demolish it completely. The truth was that it was only had cracks that will be adequately repaired to consolidate the stability of the main structure. Because yes, the cracks that I am showing to you in the pictures, they are not good for the main structure, but it can be easily repaired. You have to repair it if you saw it. You don't live like that. But there are techniques that you by yourself you can fix it. That is the magic in the earthen construction. So, in order to be able to rebuild in this property, it was a lot of responsibilization because the commitment was about the townhouse, historic building for them. So I immersed myself into the typology of the context, realizing the well-preserved adobe dwellings in the town. So as you can see it right here, mostly of the town is like mountains, and you have little adobe houses, pretty well preserved. But something peculiar to me and to my team was discovering the original typology of this community that was Bajareque. Why I'm showing you like these ruins is because I have to go into the ruins of many abandoned houses, and I discover, because we're the older ones, I discovered the original typology of this site. And it makes a lot of sense because in this community has always lack of water, and to make adobe requires so much more water. Bajareque. These particularities you also have to take in count to decide which system you will use it. Not only the composition of each soil, you have to know which type of what do you have, natural properties, materials, everything counts when you're talking about vernacular architecture. So this is one of the most graphic pictures that it shows you the adobe columns and the Bajareque walls. This was one of the most important feedbacks that we can obtain when you are like into these communities. And most of the time, all their life, they taught me many specific details of where do they took those materials and natural resources and how do they apply them. So this building captures a particular essence of the combination of the Bajareque walls and the adobe columns. And those are the things that I have told you that we will look in each region. This village is 100 people. You can even imagine how much varieties have every single community. For example, this was another magical thing because living in there gives me the opportunity to go into the houses of my neighbors. And in this, if you look at this picture, the photograph from outside, you only see an adobe house. But when I started being friends with the owner, I came into their house and I saw it again, the adobe column with the bajareque walls. So you have to be very specific in the observations that you make researching vernacular architecture to be a better constructor, because the most of the knowledge is in the already vernacular constructions. These guys were my team, were the workers that doing all these projects with me, and another architect that lived with me also. So the participation of the entire community was a key also to recovering the public spaces from the town, because between my team of workers, we use tequios. A tequio is a collective action inside the communities. I mean, where is a response of a need, one person of each family has to attend and support the work necessary to improve the village. The type of work, it changed, depends on the need. It could be gardening, it could be things to the installation of water, it could be many things. So they use these systems to give like maintenance to the own village. When I got to this village, the town hall was already demolished, or completely was gone. The first thing that we made was were the foundations walls made of stones of the same mountain. Everything was took from there. In that place, the stones are white, so they are beautiful. The second thing, we built the concrete columns lined with partitions walls. These are concrete columns lined with partition walls. So here we look the connection between the duality of the integration of the traditional techniques and the contemporary technology. It is correct to rely on the new technology while respecting the structural logic of vernacular systems. That's the clue of all. If you don't respect the structural logic of the system, you will crack the structure at all and it will collapse instantly. It is also right to accept the time that we are living in and implement the wisdom that our predecessors left us. You know, that it's not only concrete, it's not only earth. We have to be conscious about the time that we're living in and take it the most of them. Later, we built the jauría, that is a panel made of wooden branches. So we place on the cover of wooden truss. But so no sooner have you got placed the wooden truss, you may have to place the upper layers of the ceiling because the sun is terrible and can damage and bend the wood. The roof prevents the earthen bajareque walls from the sliding down because the water is always a trouble when you're in the process of earthen systems. Well, we carry it out by plastering the walls layer by layer until you require your thickness. So this is one layer. So you can appreciate the difference between the first one and the ones that are coming after. Well, I have a special fondness for these systems that allows to capture the essence of each person who contribute to the construction. This system in particular is full of textures, of different types of materials rather than the other ones like rain earth or adobe are pretty similar. But Bajareque is always changing because the materials that you have in each area are so much different. Well, the process is pretty simple. The wall has to be well hydrated, and you have to take your earthen mixture, also well hydrated, but your earthen mixture that you're applying to the walls, it has to, we call it like sleep at night before. Like you're doing it today and you leave it like there with a lot of water, and the next day is prepared to use because the clay in the soil has a, a like a higher curve of activation in their properties, not like the concrete. Like concrete is instantly, but the clay in the soils has a curve that make it slower. The construction process was completely collaborative with the community. And when I refer the community, I do not only mean the men, the woman, and the older people also played an important role in the participation of the community in the construction. So in these systems, you only have to apply the earth in the walls until they dry until the another layer. Well, the bajareque is, told you, it's a perseverance process because you have to be really conscious about if your layer before doesn't dry completely, you will ruin it all the system. In this picture, you can already see the difference between the final layer, between the process layer. There is a beautiful analogy in construction. Many times the work during the process darkens and lacks of warmth, but it is just when it approaches to the materialization of the whole idea, when its true essence comes out. Well, this was the final result that we got it. We have also mixed the techniques. We have bajareque walls and adobe in the corner walls. So if you also you can mix the systems if you are conscious about the structural logic, like any type of material. That is the beauty in architecture. Okay, so the challenge in the field of heritage remains the adaptation of traditional methods to the context of the industrial contemporary times. We must keep in mind to stop the loss of knowledge in vernacular architecture today, applying with knowledge of the logic of the system and each material. And without a doubt, reconstructing a building with a traditional technique with the help of the community has been extremely enriching. However, what I consider the paramount about this experience was the result of living and learning directly of the community. They were not only my workers, they were my neighbors, my friends. We all live in the same conditions in the adobe houses. We ate the similar diet. And I am sure that I left this detail behind, but we were extremely isolated from the world because in this town there is no phone, no internet signal, anything, you know? You have to buy like a ticket to make a phone call, but you're isolated from everything. And also we were in the pandemic. So I pretty much was living in there, but living the day. And that is something that the technology take out of us. And we have to make the exercise to don't lose it. And without arguing anything else, I said that knowing that we are contributing in a meaningful way is what makes us thrive. So I don't know if you have any questions.